Okay, so the first part of the trip is going to be, pick a variable. N. Okay. So N is going to represent the first part of the trip. Which means that the second part of the trip, the return is 284 miles shorter than the first part. So that is N minus 284. That's the return trip, right?
Yes.
Okay? So if I know this is the first part of the trip, and I know this is the return trip, then I know these two amounts added together, N plus N minus 284, should equal the total trip, which is... Now, this is an expression, or an equation, that we can work out to find out what N is. Now, the expression that they have on the answer key, though, is just simply this simplified, because before we start solving it, we need to do what?
We need to add our like terms.
Add our like terms. So we have 1N, and we have 1N, so that makes 2N minus 284 equals 1,356. So that's what they had on the textbook, the answer key, right? Now, from here, it's just a two-step problem. I'm going to need to add 284 to both sides. So on this side, I'm left with 2N. And on this side, I get, I don't know, somebody worked that one out in the calculator. 1,356.
1,640.
1,640. Then our second step is divide by 2. And we get N equals,
536.
nope, 820. Now, that's not the answer that we have in the textbook. Why not?
Because you have to do that's just the return, and it asks what the...
Because you have to make sure you're answering the correct question. The question asks, how long was the return trip? Well, if we look, what is N?
820.
N is the first part of the trip. It's not the return trip. So if you got your answer was 820, then you probably wrote your equation right. You probably solved your equation right. All you did was not pay attention to what the question was asking. The question asked you the return trip, which means we have to take 820 and subtract 284. So do 820 minus 284, and what do you get?
536.
So 536 would be the return trip. And that's the answer to our question. Always make sure when you're working a word problem that the last thing you do is read the question and make sure that what you've got as your answer is actually the answer to that question. Because again, N in this problem does equal 820. And this is set up correctly. The only problem with this whole situation is that 820 is not the return trip. It's the first part. It's N. And we need N minus 284. So always make sure you pay attention to what the question is. All right, other ones. Right. 17. So 17 says, in his DVD collection, Domingo has 8 more than twice as many animated movies as action movies. All right. So let's start out. It says twice as many animated movies as action movies, or 8 more than twice as many animated as action. So I'm going to let C represent my action movies. Because my animated movies is expressed, the way they tell us how many animated movies he has is by saying twice as many, or 8 more than twice as many as the action. So first I need to know how many action movies there are, so that's going to be my variable. So if C is the number of action movies, then the number of animated movies is going to be oh, sorry, other way around. Read it backwards. Boop, sorry. So, 8 more than twice as many animated movies as action. Wait, hang on. Am I reading that right? And Domingo has 8 more than twice as many animated movies as action movies. That's written in a weird way. I think I actually had it right the first time. All right. I think I had it right the first time, because it's saying twice as many, 8 more than twice as many animated movies. Yeah, I think I had it right the first time. Let's go with action movies. So then the number of animated movies would be 2C plus 8, right? Because you double the number, and it says 8 more than that, so 2C plus 8. So that would be, I think is supposed to be animated movies. We'll find out in a minute whether I've got it wrong. They worded it in a strange way. So then it says if he has 24 animated movies, write and solve an equation to find out how many action movies are in his collection. So the number of, this one actually is easier than this. So the number of animated movies is 24. So that means 2C plus 8 equals 24, right? Because 8 more than twice as many action movies is how many animated movies he has, and the number of animated movies he had, they tell us, is 24. So we have this expression, and then we can solve for C. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. I get 2C equals 16. And then I can divide by, divide by 2. And I get C equals 8. So there should be 8 action movies in his collection. And again, make sure that your final question answers the question. The question is, how many action movies? And does C represent the number of action movies? Yes, it does, because that was what we determined. I read it right the first time, and then I fixed it. So, yes, Addison. Number 5. All right. It is warm in here, isn't it?
No.
Is it? All right. Let's see. All right. Number 5. It says, guys, it says, during the spring car wash, the activity club washed 14 fewer cars than during the summer car wash. So, my variable here is going to be the summer car wash. Because during the spring, they washed 14 fewer than during the summer. So it helps for us to know how many they washed during the summer, because then I know the spring is 14 fewer than that. Right? So, if X is the number they washed during the summer, then X minus 14 is the number that they washed during the spring. And then they tell us that they washed a total of 96 cars during both car washes. So total tells us we're doing what? Addition, right? So we're adding what they washed during the summer plus what they washed during the spring, and that gives us a total of 96 cars that they washed. Now, once again, that's not the expression on the answer key because it can be simplified. Combining our like terms, we have 1x and 1x, so that gives us 2x minus 14 equals 96. Now from there, it's a two-step equation, so we're going to add 14 on both sides. So I get 2x equals 110, and then I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. And I get x equals 55. Now, is 55 the answer? No. Why not?
It's not what the question asks.
Okay, because the question asks how many cars were washed during the spring car wash, and x is summer. So in order to find out the spring, we have to do x minus 14, which x in this case we already know is 55. So we have 55 minus 14, which is, so 41 cars is what's washed during the spring car wash. So, same thing, you've got to make sure you're answering the question that's being asked. Always make sure you pay attention to what the question is to make sure that you fully answered. Okay, for tonight's homework,